And this is one of those other topics. Fox News Channel is also watching what's happening right now with religious leaders meeting with Donald Trump as well. So that'll be something that we're also covering. He's vowing a very different kind of campaign against Hillary Clinton following the departure of his longtime campaign manager yesterday, as new polls are out showing a toss-up in two key swing states. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Sandra Smith, co-host of After the Bell on Fox Business, Melissa Francis. Democrat strategist Julie Roginski is here. And today's #OneLuckyGuy, that's the hint. The political editor of townhall.com, Guy Benson, is outnumbered. Although, you know what? We're family.
That's so true.
Right?
That is so sweet of you.
I mean, you guys will spar.
No, the two of us? Are you kidding?
Right.
We're like selfie brethren. No way.
Right. They take a selfie before the show, and then it really hits. I'm glad you're here. A lot of politics to get to.
Very political heavy show today.
All right, let's move. We'll start with the new polls in key swing states from Quinnipiac University. In Ohio, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton tied at 40%. Pennsylvania, too close to call. Clinton with 42%, the Republicans 41% there. In Florida, Clinton with a bigger lead, 8 points. Last night on The Factor, Donald Trump told Bill O'Reilly about his decision to fire campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. And he talked about some changes he's making as he ramps up efforts toward the general election.
He's a talented person. He's a good guy. He's a friend of mine. But I think it's time now for a different kind of a campaign. We ran a small, beautiful, well-unified campaign. It worked very well in the primaries. I think I'm probably going to do some of that. I want to keep it a little bit very much in control. As an example, I have 73 people. Hillary Clinton has like almost 900 people, and we're in the same position. So, you know, there's something nice about that. I got criticized for that. I said, wait a minute, I've spent much less money than her, and the result so far is the same. I should be credited for that. But with Corey, I'm really proud of him. He did a great job, but we're going to go a little bit of a different route from this point forward.
The whole thing has been a different route. Very interesting. He's talking about the issue of campaign spending. His likely Democratic opponent is ahead in the cash contest so far. According to new filings, Trump's campaign started the month of June with about $1 million in the bank. Hillary Clinton, some $42 million. But it's early. So I actually want to start with you first because you talked with Lewandowski this morning on FBN, and he was giving you some numbers. Now, he headed out the door, but he had some information.
Well, he's talking about how much Donald Trump had to spend to become the presumptive nominee on the Republican side, how much Hillary had to spend, and as hard of a time as she has had shaking Bernie Sanders. Sanders, a self-proclaimed socialist, and he actually talked about it's not about the money, it's about the message.
All right, let's look.
Donald Trump could put $50 million into this campaign tomorrow, $40 million or $100 million, or whatever he wants to. He has unlimited resources that he could dump into this campaign if that's what he chose to do. So I don't want to worry about the money side of things, because what we have seen in the primary campaign is he spent $40 million. Hillary Clinton spent $250. Took her a month longer to get the Democratic nomination than it did him. He had to beat 17 people. She had to beat a socialist from Vermont and couldn't do it. So it's not a money issue in this game. It's about the right message and the right person for the right time, and that's Donald Trump.
So earlier on Fox News, Bill Hemmer was talking with former Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown, and he said, you know, at any point, Donald Trump could write a check. At any point, he can, you know, motivate that cash to kind of be on hand as he needs it.
That's what Corey was just saying.
Yeah, well, let's see it. Right, those numbers, the fundraising numbers that came out last night are abysmal. And that's not me saying that because I've been a detractor of Trump.
I saw your tweet.
They're just really, really bad numbers. And if you want Donald Trump to beat Hillary Clinton, she is running rings around him right now, and money and ground game matters. I heard the analysis there from Trump and from Lewandowski saying, look, the disparity in staffers doesn't really matter because we're saving money, she's spending all this money, and we're tied. Well, they're not tied. Hillary does have the lead in this race, according to numerous national polls, and ground game matters. And you would think that Trump would have learned his lesson in Iowa, where he made the exact same argument. He was up 5 points in the polls in Iowa, but because there was a superior ground game from Ted Cruz, he lost by 3 points. That matters in a general.
That's an interesting point. I do want to just step in on those numbers, because as you kind of go state to state, some of them are tied. Some of this is a little bit tighter than you know, what all of the polling would show. Melissa?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even Larry Sabato was on earlier today and saying that the polls that we just showed, he thinks things are even tighter than that, that he's seen better polling, and he's a straight down the middle guy. You know, I mean, he really calls them like he sees them. On the money thing, see, I think he has learned his lesson. If you listen to the interview that Trump did with O'Reilly last night, he was singing a very different tune. I mean, he was talking about the fact, I thought it was very classy, first of all, how they've both handled this breakup. And while he said that he appreciates what Corey Lewandowski has done, he said he recognizes that he needs to pivot. I mean, he was keeping that talking point that he's spent a lot less money. And when he says things like, you know, only politicians could spend $1 billion on a campaign, that's exactly what we want to get away from. That's a great talking point. I don't think he necessarily really believes that. I think he recognizes that he needs to raise money, and that's why he fired Lewandowski.
And in May, Donald Trump said we have to raise $1 billion. He said that is what is going to be necessary to compete with Hillary Clinton. So I'm glad that he's making that pivot and that he recognizes that what worked in the primary is not going to continue to work in the general. But
he did say that last night, those exact words.
It is time.
I want to get Julie in the conversation here. So Hillary Clinton is now made that huge ad buy north of $40 million in battleground states. Peddling in negativity is the way that I heard someone put it recently, which is interesting. Will that work for her? Because I thought she was going to run a different type of campaign. I thought the message from early on, she's not going to get down and dirty like that.
First of all, I don't know why any candidate would not peddle in negativity. That's like, people keep complaining about negative campaigns, but guess what? As somebody who does them for a living, that's how you win. You don't win by talking about wine and roses. You win by making a contrast between your opponent and explaining why that opponent is worse. I will say, to the point that Guy was talking about, now's the time to do it. If Donald Trump has $1 billion that he wants to write out, now's the time to do it. You cannot wait, because the ground game has to be implemented today. Had to be implemented 2 months ago, not in September, not in October. And secondly, which I think is incredibly devastating to his fundraising operation. On the one hand, he's sending out solicitations for money saying, send money, emergency, emergency, which all candidates do. It's exactly the right thing to do. On the other, he's got Corey Lewandowski and himself and other people aligned with him saying, doesn't really matter, we could write the check any day. Well, if I'm a donor and I hear a candidate saying, I don't really need your money, I could write a check any day, why would I donate? It's completely contrary to what he needs to do.
And perhaps a sign that he is a little bit more worried about this than he or Corey was putting out there. He just announced this matching online donations. John Roberts, our senior national correspondent, just reporting this, a 48-hour online fundraising drive. Donald Trump's going to be matching donations up to a total personal outlay of $2 million. He says that this is aimed at the so-called small dollar donations, so anywhere between $1 and $1,000.
So that really takes more of a page out of the book of what we saw with Barack Obama as a candidate, what we saw with Bernie Sanders most recently as a candidate, galvanizing, you know, many to give a little, because then they stay on the hook longer.
Yes.
And when you can continue and continue on to tap that source.
Yes, and I think that's smart, and I'm glad that he's doing that from the perspective of his own strategy. He should have done it a long time ago. Better late than never, I suppose.
When you say a long time ago, what do you mean?
May 4th, as soon as he beat Ted Cruz the next day, he should have been raising money like crazy, which he could. Now, part of the problem is AP reporting today, the Associated Press, that of the relative pittance that he has raised, $6.2 million of that has gone back to Trump companies and entities, which might also make some people wonder, all right, am I giving to a campaign that is spending wisely or enriching the candidate? I'll say one thing, though, on his behalf. If you look at the polling, she clearly has a small lead right now. The fact that she is not running away with this underscores how deeply unpopular she is.
All right, before we move on, I saw you shaking your head, Melissa. I want to get you in on that point, because I don't think that that's unprecedented that candidates do that.
It's not unprecedented. I mean, you know, we've looked closely at the financials on the other side, and he's making a lot of loans to the campaign and getting paid back for it. I mean, I don't think he's doing anything nefarious in terms of enriching the candidate. When you want to talk about that, I mean, you know, the Clintons have turned politics into their own personal money machine. You know, forever, and I don't think it's anything remotely like that.
All right, I'm going to cut in now with this breaking news that we've been watching for Fort Hays Metropolitan Education Center. This is Columbus, Ohio. Hillary Clinton is being introduced right now. So you talk about a strategy against Donald Trump. This is what she plans to do. She's going to hit him hard on the economy. This young woman is making that introduction. So as the camera pulls out, we may actually see Hillary Clinton walk onto the stage.